First off, I want to say I love Dave Ramsey and how he's helped so many people over the years with his 7 financial steps to financial independence. But in one important area, he seems to have a blind spot, and that's the 8% withdrawal rule that he recommends. And we want to revisit that and see why it's so problematic. So, a spreadsheet I created. Let's say, for example, you have $600,000. You ready to retire? According to Dave Ramsey, you can take out 8% a year and never even touch your principal. 8% of 600,000 would be 4,000 a month right there. That's the withdrawal rate. And according to his figures, 12% average return. These would be the numbers that you would have, how much money you have left after 10 years, 15 years, 20, and so on. And notice it just keeps growing. Why? Because you're getting a 12% on this 600,000, but you're only taking out 8% of that. And even allowing for a 3% COLA, these numbers are just going to keep increasing and increasing and increasing until after 30 years, you got 1.853. You haven't even touched the 600,000. It just keeps growing. The problem is that's not the way numbers work. Again, he's considering a 12% average all the way through here through 10, 20, and 30 years. Watch what happens when we actually use numbers that have actually happened for the last 100 years, which is what we do on this channel, $1 Million Made Easy. We use actual historical returns for the S&P 500, and we simply project ahead what similar returns might do for you in the future. Watch what happens if we use 1925 numbers. Again, you're going to see it's not 12% every year. It's all over the map. First 4 years, you're up 25, up 11, up 37, up 47%. These are way above the 12%. Here's the 10-year average, 8.96. Here's the 20-year average, 10.58. And notice the 30-year average is even above Dave Ramsey's 12% average. It's 13.19. The problem with it is your money doesn't last that long because you hit these down years. They call that sequence of returns risk, and you're actually out of money. This is 1925 numbers. You're actually out of money in 18 years. If I pick the next year, these numbers are going to change. You're out of money in 15 years. But what I want to do is update this for every single year. But first, I'm going to show you, you could have a good string of years too, a good string of returns. Look at 1932 numbers. You're actually better off than Dave Ramsey's 12%. After 30 years, you have $3.2 million. Whereas if we use a 12% average, you got 1.8. But we're using actual numbers of what have actually happened. Nobody knows what the future is going to hold. But if we continue to do what's been happening for the last 100 years, notice what happens. I'm going to update this for every single year. It's going to show you what you have left after 10 years, 20 years, and 30 years, given this 8% withdrawal rule. And we're going to see in too many cases, 37% of the time, you're actually out of money after 20 years and less than 20 years. These are the actual years that you would have, if we were to have returns like that going forward, these are the times you'd be running out of money 37% of the time. This is after 20 years. 63% of the time, you'd be just fine. But folks, you can't just go by averages, because notice what let's see another year here. 1925 average, 30-year average is 13.19, and yet your money's gone before you get to these really good returns going down through here. Your money's gone in 18 years. In fact, 37% of the time, your money's gone in less than 20 years. That's why you cannot go by average returns. Even though the math sounds logical, if you're getting 12% every year, the thing is, that's not reality. You don't get 12% every year. You don't get these kind of numbers. You actually get these kind of numbers. And depending on what year you pick, you can see going down through here, 1932 numbers, no problem. 1933 numbers, no problem. I mean, it's growing, growing, growing. We already saw the 1932 numbers, 3.272 million after 30 years. But since nobody knows the future, it's really problematic to go with an 8% withdrawal rule. That's why the 4% withdrawal rule, maybe 5%, has been used for decades successfully. Because when you do that, let me just show you the 4% rule in action here. Using, again, the last 100 years of data, how many times you'd run into problems with the 4% withdrawal rule, again, given a 3% COLA. And I want you to notice, folks, how many times you run out of money in the last 100 years using the 4% rule. just 2%. Let's just do one more here. Let's go ahead and do 5%. 5% would be 2,500. Update this. You're going to see this percentage go up a little bit each time you go higher than the 4% rule, but definitely the 8% rule. We just saw 37% of the time you'd run out of money. That's why it's way too high. It looks like 4% of the time with the 5% rule. Here's the actual graph. Most of the time, everything's fine except during the Depression years and also around the year 2000. We've seen this in many videos, how this was a bad decade, the Depression years, and this was a bad decade, the year 2000. So if you get much away from the 4% rule, that's when you have an issue. Let's just go to 6% here, update this, and this percentage is going to get higher and higher as you're withdrawing more and more than the 4% rule. The 8% rule is what Dave Ramsey said you could safely do, and it just doesn't work out. In this case, withdrawing 6%, 91% of the time you'd be fine, but 9% of the time you'd actually be running out of money. Again, folks, once you get up to 8%, that's when you run into all kinds of problems. 37% of the time using actual numbers, not averages, but actual numbers that have actually happened. That's when you run into this problem where you have running out of money 37% of the time using numbers for the last 100 years, and you can see them right there. Anyway, I just wanted to make this video because I really appreciate Dave Ramsey, but it seems like he has this blind spot when it comes to this 8% withdrawal rule because he's looking at averages, and you can't do that. You look at averages, everything looks great. Use actual returns, and that's when you run into a problem. Well, thanks so much for watching. What we do on this channel is set up all kinds of spreadsheets, run actual numbers, show you all these different principles so you can be better educated on how to have your money last in retirement. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe and please tell others about this channel.